All right, everybody, welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel. Another day in the shop where CJ and I are putting some time in on Spencer's Camaro. And you maybe can see there's an intake on our mock-up block back in the car, which is different from the last video, as well as some other stuff that we'll show you when we do a little walk around after the intro here. But it's been a little while since we've put in some real time on this car, but we got some catching up to do to get this thing hopefully on the ground fairly soon. So yeah, let's see what we can get involved with on this thing and make some progress today. All right, well, you guys know we got to do the Florida weather report, and it's looking like it's about to storm. I heard some thundering just a second ago, and we're all in here hiding out. Well, actually not hiding, we're working. So for those of you that have been using the HTP discount code at usaweld.com, wanted to give you guys an update on that. So what ended up happening, apparently, and this sounds weird to me, but some company started using the Win with KSR code. They were selling it to other people. I don't know how that works, but apparently it was like a membership thing and you got access to discount codes that you didn't find yourself, I guess. So all of a sudden we started getting a ton of extra orders. We already get a bunch of orders from you guys that are using the Win with KSR code. And in full disclosure, that's kind of how we keep our relationship with HTP to get a little bit extra discount on a welder for us. You know, they keep track of all of the stuff that, all of the sales that you guys use. And then when it comes time to us getting a new piece of equipment, we get kind of an extra discount based on all that. But anyways, that's like kind of behind the scenes stuff. But that Win with KSR code at checkout no longer works. What they have done now is actually create a page that you go to first that I'm gonna have to link below. It's a little bit more complicated of a web address. So it's in the link below, or it's in the comment section. So what I'll do is I'll pin it to the top of the comment section so that you guys can just click on it and then go to purchase your HTP stuff or any of your welding consumables from usaweld.com. Blah, 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 blah. Let's get around here to the shop and show you what all we got going on. All right, so let's have a look back in here, and obviously there's something missing. And there's a few pieces of it scattered out here and there on the ground. And what you're seeing is we took all of the rear suspension out. Anti-roll bar will be coming out later. CJ's over there making noise where I can't talk. Oh well. So we got our tabs in for the air shock mount, which if you didn't see in the last video, in addition to the shocks on the back of the car, the AFCO Super Trick shocks down there, for the street stuff in this car, there is an auxiliary air shock that's going to take some of the load off of the AFCO shocks as well as be able to raise the back because it's an air shock. I mean, for me, I know I had air shocks on my car back in the day, and you know, you can raise the back of the car up, put bigger tires on it and all that stuff. But for this car, it will be more for hooking the trailer to it, raising the back of the car just a little bit for going down the road. We may have some spacers that we work out to go in the front suspension. Got some ideas still with that, but that'll be later on down the road. So I've got a little bit more welding to do in here now that the rear end is out. You can see some stuff like our special bushings we machined that are threaded for the shock mounts. Oh, there's a spot I missed welding. So need to weld that up. As well as some of these, like the brackets for the anti-roll bar, I've got to weld inside where they are. And up front, and what CJ's working on, you can see we've got a floor panel in there that's made. I have to weld it. And then you can see the bolts and stuff down there. That's because this entire floor roll cage assembly is going to drop out of the car. So what we are making here, the firewall, is a part, it'll be welded to this, so it's going to stay with the body, and then everything like the interior panels that CJ is working on now, those will go out and be powder coated when we take the chassis out to be powder coated. So we kicked around the idea of running the intake forward, but the turbos are kind of tentatively planned to be back here on each side. So it'd be kind of sweet if we can just make a little pipe that just right to the throttle body, but you see what that's going to do for our firewall situation. So we actually made a bar to support this, so it's not bouncy flexy anymore, for where the windshield will bolt to it. And then I have to, well, we've got to work the firewall out to tuck back and be able to get the firewall to come down and mount to this flange here that's already on the roll cage. Again, the bolt-on deal. We've got some pipes coming for here that'll turn this to where it doesn't go down, I'm hoping, below the you know, behind where this plane of the firewall is going to be. There's going to be a little bit of work there. Not going to lie about that. But for now, we're going to start, or I'm going to start doing some welding, get these panels welded in. So obviously the firewall used to come straight down here and then turn back, but we've got the plan for the exhaust to come out right at the very back of where the fiberglass front end goes. So, you know, this is going to let us get the exhaust right down here to the very bottom. The rocker panel covers the bottom of this, so I think it's going to all work out. If not, we'll make it work out one way or the other. Over here, we've got the rear end out. You can see the lower shock mount. And I still have some welding to do on the bottom of the tabs, finish where this bar welds to the original TRZ rear end, our little gusset we did here. We've got a tab for the brake lines. And, you know, like I said earlier, we're trying to make all of this stuff to where we can powder coat all this stuff and then not have to grind the powder coat off to add things back later. And pretty serious rear end housing we got here. Got TRZ's billet base plate for a 9-inch. This rear end will take a 9.5-inch ring gear. It's got TRZ's new 4-link brackets that I believe are available on their site. We've had them for a little while, but both those brackets and the brackets for the car side I think are available on their site. I'll double check and put a link in the description for you guys if you're building something like this. It's got some interesting engineering that goes behind it, at least some science with instant center and all that stuff. But Spencer's rear end is set up with full floating axles, which is required, I believe, over 200 miles per hour. And then dual parachutes, I think, are either 200 or 210 miles an hour. So if you guys know of any cars that are out there that go over 200 miles an hour and don't have a floater rear end, you need to tell that guy he needs a floater rear end. I know of a certain El Camino that could stand an upgrade, because I remember putting the rear end in that car, and she needs an upgrade. Which you see, I've got my Freedom Factory hat on today. There's something coming next week. Well, yeah, I'm doing something down there on Tuesday that's gonna be interesting. You'll hear about it soon from the owner of the Freedom Factory, Mr. Cletus McFarland. But for now, we're here at the shop getting some work done, and because that's what we do. All right, I'm gonna do some time lapse of me doing some welding, maybe CJ fitting some interior panels, and we're gonna get some work done. Here we go. right, so that's gonna wrap it up for today. And in the middle of all the time lapsing, I had to run and go get, or go drop off my youngest at gymnastics. So that took up quite a bit of my time. It's a little bit of a run over there to her gymnastics, but we got the rear end ready to go to powder coat. You saw CJ taking all of the control arms apart and actually documenting how many turns each of them were in, because we will be, that'll just give us a bit of a head start on reassembling the rear end back in the car square. So, you know, it takes a few extra seconds taking it apart to save us some time putting it back in the car, even though we'll have to tweak it and everything to get it centered and perpendicular to the chassis center line, at least for our starting point. I don't think we're gonna put any, like, what do they call that when you put it in, put some extra length on one side? I don't remember. But whenever I set up a car to begin with, I always try to put the drive axle perpendicular to the chassis. So the idea is that the car, you floor it, the car goes straight down the center line of the car. But it takes time to get that all centered and square and measured, and especially once you start adding in preload and all that other stuff. So we got this side welded in, and I had actually already welded this in the other day, but you can kind of see maybe what I do a little bit is I tack weld every ½ inch, and then usually I come back and go between all of those, and that keeps this panel from warping. And same thing here, I started across here. I've got a, it's close here, but I've got a little bit of a gap that I might have to work out there. Maybe hammer it or push this back along the ways of me welding it to try and take any kind of bend out of there. But so far everything's nice and straight. There's not, like, you know, a wave even out here where I've, ooh, that's still warm. This is nice and smooth, it's not wavy. And that's kind of one of our things for welding all this stuff in, and you know, once it's painted, it'll all look really nice. But that's kind of part of my process for welding sheet metal in. It'll be the same situation in the car. Once I start welding in those, I will tack weld all around those, you know, probably start at 1 inch between tacks, and then I'll come back and go between all of those 1 inch tacks, and then I'll come back again and go between the ½ inch apart tacks, and then we will have a welded in floor. Now in here, at least on the passenger side, I don't have to 100% weld it, but I'm gonna, because you have to on the driver's side. The driver's side floor has to be 100% welded. Technically, we could have a carbon fiber or aluminum floor on the passenger side, but because it's a drag and drive car, we're gonna be walking, or somebody's gonna be crawling in and out of that side of the car to, you know, use the car on the drag and drive events. So if we make that out of carbon or aluminum, it's gonna get all dented and messed up. So the plan is to make it steel over to the vertical part of the transmission tunnel, and we'll actually have a flange as a part of the vertical section. Either we'll use one of the prefab flanges, or what I'll do is I'll actually drill the mounting rivet holes and the Zeus holes for the Zeus fasteners that are going to hold the transmission tunnel in, because this thing is getting a carbon fiber transmission tunnel. But next time I'm in, I will finish welding this up, finish welding that side up. CJ's got me this side done there too, looking really good. Over here, we will be fabricating some other structure to mount that pedal assembly that you can see. So this is a Willwood master cylinder that we are using, and you can see that I have set it up with a dual master cylinder. And what that allows us to do is there's what's called a balance bar. Some of our other sheet metal interior stuff. There's a balance bar you can see right here, and depending on where the pedal is in relation to how close it is to the clevis, you can actually really accurately set the balance front to rear. Now those master cylinders are also different sizes because there's larger pistons on the back of the car in the big TBM brakes, and then on the front there are slightly smaller pistons, so We're using, I believe, a 16th inch different bore to start with in one of the master cylinders. I don't remember which. I was working with Jason at TBM to get me all situated and scienced out. And another nice thing about that is hopefully the car will never ever completely lose brakes. So if it fails a front brake line, well, it'll still have rear brakes. The pedal might do some kind of weird stuff as it pushes down, but you'll still be able to mash the pedal down farther and have some kind of brakes available to woe the car down before it hopefully goes off the end of the racetrack. Yeah, but anyways, you can see it from this side. Looks pretty cool. I think this one maybe needs to go just a little bit lower down, which I'll tell CJ that, at least for it to be the same height as this. But yeah, that looks, I like how that looks with it tucked down in the bar a little bit. And then I can still weld stuff to the bars, which we don't have anything to do over here on this side. But over there, we've got something a little different that has to do with the seat mounting over there, as well as some other apparatus that I will have to show you in another video. So that's gonna wrap it up for today. Appreciate everybody subscribing, following along. Glad you guys liked the Ferrari video. That was kind of fun to do with Jared. And like I said, there's gonna be something coming up here. Today is Thursday, so by the time I get this edited, it'll probably go live Saturday or Sunday. I'm jumping on a plane in an hour and a half and flying to Wisconsin for the Trans Am race. But next Tuesday, or the Tuesday after this video, I'm filming something at the Freedom Factory with Cletus, which will be pretty fun. And stay tuned for that. See you guys next time.